It's March 2nd, 1998. A 10-year-old girl leaves her apartment in Vienna and walks toward school, just like she does every morning. She never arrives. Within hours, her mother is calling the school. Within a day, police are combing the streets of a major European capital. Within a week, Austria is gripped by one of the largest manhunts in its history. And then, nothing. No ransom note, no body, no trace. For 8 years, this case goes cold. Her face fades from missing person posters. Her own family is told, quietly, to prepare for the worst. But she is alive, less than 15 miles from her own home, sealed inside a hidden room, beneath a garage, behind a steel door so heavy, it takes almost an hour to open. This is the story of Natascha Kampusch and the ordinary-looking house where she vanished for 3,096 days. Natascha was a shy, imaginative kid. She loved to read. Friends and teachers remembered a girl who sometimes struggled at school, who could be withdrawn, who occasionally talked, the way kids do, about running away from her problems. None of that made her different from 1,000 other 10-year-olds. None of it explains what happened to her. The day before she vanished, she'd come home from a short trip with her father. Her parents were separated, and on the morning of March 2nd, she argued with her mother before school. A small moment. The kind every family has, except this time, it was the last ordinary conversation they'd share for 8 years. Witnesses later remembered a white delivery van near her route to school. At the time, it meant nothing. Vienna is full of white vans. The man driving it was Wolfgang Psychlopil, 35 years old, a communications technician. On paper, unremarkable. A quiet man, lived with his mother. No criminal record that raised any flags. Nothing about him fit the profile investigators were searching for. What no one knew was that he'd spent months preparing. Beneath his garage, he'd built a secret chamber, soundproofed, windowless, reachable only through a narrow passage behind a reinforced door. He built it before he had ever laid eyes on her. On the morning of March 2nd, he pulled her into that van. He drove her to that house, and he sealed her inside a room the world would not know existed for 8 more years. Here's the part that still stings. Investigators had almost nothing to go on, except one witness who'd written down a partial license plate and handed it to police. It matched Psychlopil's van. He was questioned. He was released. No one pressed further. The lead went into a file. The file went cold, and Psychlopil went home, to the house where a 10-year-old girl was locked in the dark, just feet from where police had briefly stood. Inside that room, Natascha was trying to survive. 10 years old, alone, beginning to understand. No one was coming. What followed is hard to summarize and impossible to fully capture. She's described long stretches of isolation in that underground room, being deprived of food, forced into hard labor, violence that left lasting damage. She said he tried to control every part of her existence, her name, her appearance, even her sense of what was real outside those walls. He told her, she has said, that her family didn't want her back. As the years went on, he allowed her limited time upstairs, in the house itself, always watched, always controlled. And the world outside kept moving without her. Birthdays passed, holidays passed, and the missing poster with her 10-year-old face grew older, while she did not. By August 2006, Natascha was 18, and something had shifted. On August 23rd, she's cleaning her captor's van in the garden. The vacuum is running, loud. His phone rings. He steps away to take the call. For one moment, just one moment, Natascha Kampusch is alone. She runs, over fences, through neighboring yards, nearly 200 meters, asking strangers on the street to call the police. Some ignore her. She keeps running. Finally, she reaches the window of a 71-year-old neighbor and says 4 words that end 8 years of silence. "I am Natascha Kampusch." The neighbor calls the police. They arrive in minutes. When Psychlopil realizes she's gone, he makes one phone call to a close friend, confessing everything. Then he walks to a nearby train station and steps in front of an oncoming train. He dies before police can ever question him. Natascha is taken to a police station. She's identified 3 ways: a scar on her body, her passport, found inside the very room where she'd been held, and DNA testing. The girl an entire country had given up on was alive. What came next was its own kind of ordeal. The story exploded across world media. Reporters offered enormous sums for an interview. Natascha, 18 years old, chose to speak just once, carefully, to Austrian broadcaster ORF. Then she began the long, private work of rebuilding a life that had been stolen from her before it really began. In the years since, she's written about her captivity in her own words. She's refused simple labels, like Stockholm Syndrome, for a relationship she says was far more complicated than any single term can hold. She said she felt sympathy for the man who took everything from her, and she has also, without hesitation, called him a criminal. Both things, she insists, can be true. That contradiction is hers to define, not ours. Natascha Kampusch survived 8 years in a room the size of a small garage, built for her before she ever existed to the man who built it. She survived by watching, by learning, by holding on to some version of herself that he could never fully lock away. And on one ordinary afternoon in August, when a phone rang at exactly the wrong moment for her captor, she ran, and she did not stop until she was free.
If this story affected you the way it affected us, hit subscribe. There are more cases like this one per peds, still waiting to be told.